Hello, hello. So yes, I am doing. This is the next day. I am doing a movie review on Scream Two. Just continuing to do movie reviews on the following movies, the following Scream franchise, and also planning on doing a review on Scream Seven when it comes out later on this month. But without further ado, let's get into it because we are doing a movie review on Scream Two. Crocodile Dundee, motherfuckers. But all right. So we have Dewey Riley, who is he's no longer a deputy. I don't think he's a deputy anymore, but he doesn't get like that sheriff like namesake until later on. So I mean, whatever is in between a deputy, and a sheriff, that's he's one of those. Sidney Prescott, of course. You have Gail Weathers, C.C. Cooper, Randy Meeks, Cotton Weary, Mickey Altieri. Not sure if I'm saying that last name correct. Nancy Loomis, aka Debbie Salt. Joelle, who is Gail Weathers' new cameraman. Haley McDaniel, who is Sidney Prescott's um like roommate slash like friend now. She's essentially trying to get her to join like this sorority and stuff like that, but Sydney isn't really with the shit. And then of course you have the love interest Derek Feldman. Derek Feldman, um, not really much to say about him. I mean, honestly, just other than he's the love interest. Spoiler alerts, he dies. But let's get to the key points. Key points, of course. The first deaths, which is Maureen Evans and Phil Stevens, played by Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett. Not sure if that's Jada Pinkett Smith or if it's Jada Pinkett at this point, but Jada. Their deaths would pretty much signifies that the killer is trying to be a copycat because Maureen Prescott, Phil Stevens, Steve, whatever his name was going by from the first Scream movie. So pretty much making it seem that the killer is pretty much copycatting, but also just because it's another key point I'm gonna bring up later. Um, is the fact that the killer is targeting students and people with the same name as the Woodboro students, but also just bringing up the fact that Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith, this was their 30-35 minutes of the movie, if that, and they end up getting killed. Jada Pinkett gets killed. She's stabbed in the audience, and they're watching this movie Stab 2 or Stab 3. I'm not sure which one it is. They're watching this movie, which pretty much is a reiteration of what happened in Woodsboro. Just a continuation, I guess. But essentially, uh, Jada is stabbed while she's sitting there, while she's sitting down in the audience, and Phil Stevens, he is killed in the bathroom. And it just once again, it just makes you think about how the scary movie franchise is, and how literally you can't help but look at these movies and then think about the scary movie franchises, or at least if you can, it's hard to do, because I mean, you see the movie and then you think about the parody. It's kind of hard to not think about that, but I guess that's the purpose of doing your homework when you're making a parody movie, is finding the key points that you want to target and be like, hey, this is gonna be funny. This is gonna be something that they're gonna be like, hey, you remember that from the movie and stuff like that. So just key points, nothing too what's it called. But Gail Weathers approaching Sidney Prescott with Cotton Weary, even though he's a freed man, that was a forced confrontation. Like, imagine being Sidney in that moment, thinking that, you know, essentially just kind of thinking that, you kind of ruined this man's life. You kind of ruined this man's life. This man literally was incarcerated for about a year for a crime he did not commit. Thank God that there was evidence. Thank God that there was, you know, the Scream movie one, that, go into detail and find out that it was Billy Loomis and Stu Macher. But I mean, still at the same time, that's a year of this man's life that was taken away. So Sydney probably doesn't Sydney probably in that moment wasn't really in the mood to meet him or see him, or she probably just wasn't ready to have that talk yet. But Gale, being Gale, pretty much forced the confrontation, and even Cotton didn't like that. Cotton was even like, "Did Sydney know? Was she aware of this? Like, come on, man! Like, like." He was pretty much upset about that with Gale. So that was another key point. But I mean, I feel like that was something that, from based on learning that Cotton Weary wasn't the killer from the first movie, that I feel like that pretty much is what everybody was waiting on. We were waiting on that confrontation, that moment where they got to speak with each other and see how they could resolve some stuff. Um, Also another moment, because there was another moment where Cotton was talking to Sydney, like in like a stairway or something, and he was trying to get her attention, trying to like pretty much trying to get it to him, like be like, yeah, the news and stuff says I'm a free man, but if I can get this interview with you, you could say that I'm a free man, this and the third. And it's like the way that he's grabbing her, the way that he's like holding her attention and stuff like that is very much has you thinking like, are you sure you're not the killer? Or at least if you didn't do that killing in the first movie, are you sure you don't have that sick, twisted part of you that is a killer? Like, it honestly, that was a moment. That was a moment. That was a moment that I definitely I was like, that was twisted. Then of course the love interest. You have Derek Feldman, who is pretty much letting Sydney Prescott, or at least attempting to tell her, hey, look, I'm not with the shits. Like I'm not. You can trust me. I'm not that guy. Blah 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 blah. But for the most part, Sydney is very much on. You know, she's on edge with it. And she deserves it. She deserves to be in a time where literally her boyfriend Billy Loomis had got locked up in the first movie, had went to jail in the first movie, because Sydney pretty much had accused him then. So I mean, and then to come to find out that, well, in the movie, come to find out that he didn't do it because there was two Ghostface killers. So that kind of was his alibi and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard for her to not look at Derek Feldman as like, it's hard for me to trust you, because when I trusted my boyfriend in thinking that he wasn't the killer, he actually really was the killer. He just had an alibi and a plan to make it look like so. So it's an understandable reaction at this point. At this point, it's an understandable reaction. It just is. But the love interest is definitely something to be looked at. And then honestly, his death, I feel like his death was really just the author, the director, screenwriter was really just being like, bro, that love interest. You remember how you might have thought in this scene or in this scene it might have been him. Boom. Guess what? It's not him. I'm gonna put a hole in his fucking chest. Like, and it's like it's fucked up. But I mean, at the same time, it definitely is. That's part of the movie franchise. That's how the movie works. That's how the creator, the author, the director, that's how they want you to think about it. That was supposed to be a moment. You know what I'm saying? So definitely. And then number 4, going back into what I was saying for number 1, targeting students with the same name as the Woodborough students. You start to notice that, as the list goes down, people are getting killed. Matter of fact, I think CC Cooper, that is her position. I think CC Cooper, her real name was Casey. And I think she was the third death. Because you had Maureen Prescott, Steven, and then you had Casey. So I think that's who CC is in the movie. I could be 100% wrong, but right now, as I'm doing this recording, I'm not about to stop the recording and go look. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But Ghostface killing Randy in broad daylight, that was a fucked up scene. That was a fucked up scene. You had, honestly, Randy had been right all in the first movie, and I really didn't want to see Randy get killed. But he started talking about Billy, speaking about how he was crazy, not all there in the head and whatnot. And spoiler alert, Nancy Loomis, aka Debbie Salt, is Billy's mom, and Nancy is one of the killers. She's one of the Ghostface. So as soon as he's saying all this bullshit, saying all this stuff and whatnot, Nancy pulls him into the van, stab, 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 and it's really out of like emotional thing. Like she gets emotional hearing about her son, but it's like the apple didn't fall far from the tree because like you're literally a killer now. You're the killer. You're a fucking killer. Like it's ridiculous, but honestly, did not want to see Randy get killed. I love the scene where it's like as they're running back to the car, you don't see a dead body or anything, but you see the accumulation of blood that is built up and that is literally dripping out of the vehicle. Definitely, definitely a scene worth talking about. Another thing, because it just happened. This is only movie 2, by the way. There are 6 movies, 7 after this month. In all of the movies, when they get the ghost face killer, they knock him down, they throw something at him, he falls, he's unconscious, he or she is unconscious. They never continue the ass whooping. They always stop. They always fucking stop. They either throw something at him, they get him unconscious, and then they run. They're trying to get out of there as fast as possible. It's like if there's 3 of us, two of us can be whooping this man ass, female ass. We could be putting hands and feet on this mug while the other person calls the police or grabs some rope or something. Let's tie this motherfucker up. I mean, like it's always that situation. I never get it. I never understand it. But hey, I guess that's the whole purpose of the movie. It's like that corny ass shit, like when you're running from the killer or you're running from something that's chasing you, and then all of a sudden you trip and fall. It just seems like one of those scenes. Yes, Nancy using Mickey, which is somewhat not poetic, but it's just ironic in its sense because you had Billy that did the same thing to Stu. He double crossed Stu. Billy had a fall guy, and he had somebody to put the blame on. That was Stu Macher, Cotton Weary. Nancy essentially, ain't no telling if she would have got away with it 100%, but essentially that was her plan. She was going to blame it on Mickey and get the hell out of Dodge. So it's the classic double cross. And spoiler alerts, this isn't going to be the first time you get a classic double cross in the Scream franchise. But like I said, this is the only movie 2, so this is only the second time that we've seen it. So second verse, same as the first. And then Cotton's slow choice. This is the last key point that I'm going to speak about. And it upset my soul down to the pit. I mean, you had Sidney Prescott that has Nancy Loomis with a knife up to her neck or something, right? And she's over there pretty much threatening to kill her. Cotton Weary shows up, grabs the gun. There's plenty of times that he could have took the shot because Nancy's head is so far from Sidney's. Now, I'm not saying that Cotton is a skilled marksman or anything, but I mean, honestly, you can take a shot from point A to point B. I mean, I feel like that would have been an easy kill, but the fact of it is, you have Nancy Loomis who is pleading. Well, she's not pleading, but she's kind of going back and forth with Cotton, pretty much saying like, "Hey, we can do this. We can get away with this. Blah 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 blah." Like she's pretty much pleading with Cotton, and then you have Sidney, who is pretty much telling Cotton like, "Don't listen to her," and Cotton's like, "What up? Wait, I might hear her out a little bit." It's like, what the fuck? Like that was really a moment where I was just like, wow, like he's literally taking time to hear what Nancy has to say instead of just go ahead bang. Like so finally Sidney ends up saying something to Cotton, because Cotton essentially he wants to have an interview with her pretty much to get that publicity, his 15 minutes as he calls it. He wanted to get that significance, wanted to get that publicity. So she pretty much, Sidney finally, she had been against it a majority of the movie. But in this moment, she looks at Cotton. She's like, 15 minutes or something. She says something to him in relation to the whole idea that, she wanted to have that interview with him and whatnot. And he finally takes the shot, shooting Nancy plain in the forehead. And honestly, it's just like, about time, motherfucker. Because then at the end of the movie, everybody running up to Sidney is like, hey, da da da, and she's like, don't talk to me. talk to Cotton. He's the hero. It's like, fuck that. I wouldn't have said he's a hero at all. Like, fuck. That motherfucker hesitated. You know what I'm saying? Like, my life is on the fucking line. And if it wouldn't have been for the fact of me, what's it called? It wouldn't have been for the idea of me giving him that 15-minute interview or something, I possibly could have been dead. Like, yeah, so no, I don't agree with that at all. But second verse, same as the first. Honestly, you know, this is only the second movie. We're gonna do the third movie review tomorrow. Yeah, we're gonna do the third movie tomorrow. Honestly, I give this movie maybe like a 6 out of 10. I feel like honestly, there's a lot more stuff that they could have added. But you know, all in all, and then also I'll say this: I'm more of a fan of Part 3. I think Part 3, Scream 3, has way more of a twist, way deeper. It's way deeper and way more of a twist than Part 2. But that's just my personal opinion. You know what I mean? Somebody probably could be like, Part 2 was the best Scream. You know, but hey, but like I said, 6 out of 10. And we'll be doing this movie review. We'll be doing a movie review on Scream 3 tomorrow. Stay tuned. Stay locked in. Like, comment, follow. And, you know, give me some suggestions. You know what I mean? Like, let me know some other movies that, you know, y'all would like for me to watch. And I'll do a movie review on it. You know what I mean? So, let's let this thing grow. All right. Love, peace, and chicken grease. How the fuck I turn this shit off?